You open your banking app after work and see the same bills, same balance, same low grade money stress. But the hidden shift is that AI is no longer just helping people work, it is learning how to price, pitch, and pull on your spending in real time. And with scams alone costing Americans over $12.5 billion in 2024, up 25% in 1 year, this stops feeling abstract and starts feeling uneven. Because the real story is not smarter tools, but smarter pressure at machine scale, aimed straight at ordinary financial decisions. And most people still do not see how close that system already is to their money. Picture two people living through the exact same next 5 years. The first person treats AI as background noise. They know it exists, they hear the headlines, they assume it matters mostly for coders, tech companies, and maybe office jobs. They keep making money decisions the way they always have. They click whatever looks credible. They trust polished interfaces. They accept convenience when it reduces friction. They assume a personalized offer is helpful. They think a smarter budgeting app must be on their side. They do not question why one person gets one price and another person gets a different one. They do not notice how aggressively their attention is being modeled. They do not think about synthetic voices, synthetic urgency, synthetic trust, or machine-generated persuasion. They still think financial danger looks obvious. They still imagine scams as clumsy, easy to spot, full of broken wording and obvious pressure. They still believe bad offers usually look bad. They assume the systems around them are mostly neutral unless proven otherwise. They do not stop to ask what invisible incentives are sitting behind the recommendations, alerts, nudges, offers, and reminders entering their day. The second person sees the shift for what it is. They understand that AI changes not only how money is earned, but how money is targeted, extracted, routed, priced, and influenced. They know that every financial message now deserves suspicion. If it is unusually timely, unusually personalized, unusually smooth, or unusually tailored to an emotional weak point. They assume every system is optimizing for something, and that useful and profitable to the system are not the same thing. They do not confuse personalization with alignment. They do not confuse convenience with safety. They build friction back into decisions where AI is trying to remove it. They pause before clicking. They separate speed from trust. They assume that anything designed to feel effortless may also be designed to lower their defenses. They understand that intelligence embedded inside a product does not make that product loyal to them. Now watch what happens over time. The first person leaks money in ways that do not feel dramatic enough to trigger alarm. A subscription they did not really need. A financing plan that looked harmless. A manipulated impulse purchase. A fake invoice that felt legitimate. A fraudulent call that sounded like family. An investing decision shaped by algorithmic hype. Tiny losses here, medium losses there. A few expensive mistakes during moments of stress. Nothing cinematic, just repeated extraction. It does not arrive as one catastrophic collapse. It arrives as frictionless surrender. It arrives through subtle steering, automated temptation, and manufactured confidence. The second person does not become invincible. That is not the point. The point is that they stop being easy to optimize against. They slow down before acting. They verify identity through separate channels. They become more skeptical of urgency. They recognize that AI can mass-produce persuasion, which means polish no longer signals truth. So the difference between these two people is not intelligence in the abstract. It is adaptation speed. One keeps operating with human-era assumptions inside machine-optimized financial environments. The other updates their model of reality. One believes money loss still arrives mostly through obvious bad choices. The other understands that in an AI-shaped economy, money loss increasingly arrives through well-designed experiences that feel normal. That is why the two outcomes diverge. One person gets nudged, sorted, priced, and manipulated with growing precision while barely noticing. The other starts treating their financial life like a contested environment. Same world, same tools, same economy. Very different result. Over 5 years, that gap compounds. The first person becomes easier to read, easier to predict, and easier to monetize. Their habits become signals. Their stress becomes an opening. Their preferences become leverage. Their convenience becomes someone else's revenue model. The second person keeps restoring distance between stimulus and action. They question why an offer appeared now. They ask who benefits from the recommendation. They treat ease, urgency, and personalization as variables to inspect, not gifts to accept. That does not make them paranoid. It makes them harder to move without consent. And in a financial system increasingly shaped by machine intelligence, that difference matters more than most people understand. Because the real divide is not between people who use AI and people who do not. It is between people who understand they are being modeled and people who still think they are simply being served. Here is the hidden truth most people have not fully seen yet. The biggest financial power of AI is not that it gives you new ways to make money. It is that it gives systems new ways to move your money without your full awareness. That sounds harsh, but look at how modern money already works. You rarely sit in a quiet room and make clean, fully independent financial choices from first principles. Most of your spending, borrowing, subscribing, insuring, investing, and responding happens inside environments designed by somebody else. Apps, feeds, checkout flows, recommendation engines, customer service systems, targeted ads, loan forms, fraud alerts, ranking systems, payment prompts, renewal notices, product bundles, retention offers, urgency messages. All of those are decision environments. All of them can now become more adaptive. All of them can now learn faster from behavior. All of them can now adjust more precisely around timing, wording, and presentation. The old version of financial influence was based on broad segmentation. Your age bracket, your zip code, your rough income band, your search history, your recent purchase. Useful, but limited. AI pushes far beyond that. It can infer patterns from language, timing, hesitation, browsing sequence, response speed, transaction context, and behavior clusters across millions of people. It can discover which wording works on anxious buyers, which timing works on late-night spenders, which voice works on older targets, which message structure gets people to override doubt, and which default option increases retention. It can test small changes at a scale no human team could manage manually. It can learn from reactions that most people would never even notice they are giving off. That is the hidden mechanism. AI makes financial influence more granular, more dynamic, and more asymmetrical. It does not need to understand you like a friend. It only needs to predict you well enough to increase the odds of a desired action. That action could be a purchase, a renewal, a click, a reply, a transfer, a disclosure of information, a loan acceptance, a policy upgrade, a delayed cancellation, a mistaken trust decision. It does not need perfect control. It only needs a better probability of getting the outcome the system wants. And here's the part that makes this different from a generic AI will change the economy script. This is not mainly about macro theory. This is about direct financial contact with your life. Your money becomes easier to model because your digital behavior produces trails. Your decisions become easier to shape because machine systems can test more variance than humans ever could. Your vulnerabilities become easier to identify because weakness leaves patterns. Stress leaves patterns. Urgency leaves patterns. Loneliness leaves patterns. Confusion leaves patterns. Even caution leaves patterns. Once those patterns become legible to systems, they become usable. So when people say, AI is just a tool, that sentence is incomplete. It is also a leverage multiplier for anyone trying to influence economic behavior at scale. Used well, it can help a consumer compare options, detect fraud, negotiate, and plan. Used against the consumer, it can increase extraction without needing open coercion. The transaction can still feel voluntary while the environment becomes far more manipulative. That is the hidden truth. AI is not only entering your financial life as an assistant, it is entering as an optimizer, a persuader, a profiler, a scorer, a gatekeeper, and sometimes a predator. It only needs to sit quietly inside the environments where your decisions are already being made and get better and better at tilting those decisions in directions that serve someone else first. This stops sounding abstract once you look at how the underlying pieces are already behaving. Start with fraud. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center reported billions of dollars in annual losses from cyber-enabled fraud, with phishing, business email compromise, investment scams, impersonation, and tech support scams among the major categories. Those losses were already enormous before generative AI made it cheaper to write convincing messages, localize language, imitate tone, and scale personalization. The significance is obvious. If fraud was already producing multi-billion-dollar damage with older methods, better synthetic communication lowers the cost of deception and raises its potential success rate. That does not guarantee every scam becomes more effective, but it absolutely changes the attacker's economics. It means more attempts can be made, more believable messages can be sent, more identities can be imitated, and more targets can be approached with fewer visible signs of fraud. Now look at voice cloning. Financial institutions and security researchers have repeatedly warned that AI-generated voice impersonation is making family emergency scams and executive impersonation fraud more believable. That matters because older scams often failed on quality. The language was awkward, the pacing was strange, the voice was clearly wrong. AI reduces those giveaways. Once emotional trust can be manufactured quickly, money can move before reasoning catches up. A voice that sounds familiar does not have to be perfect. It only has to be convincing long enough to trigger fear, urgency, or duty. That is enough to create a dangerous window where emotion outruns verification. Then consider digital platforms and personalization. Large platforms have spent years using machine learning to optimize click-through rates, conversions, retention, and recommendation quality. That is not a fringe practice. It is the business model. The better the prediction, the better the monetization. When that same optimization logic touches shopping, subscriptions, consumer finance, insurance marketing, and investing interfaces, the pressure on your money is not random anymore. It is systematized. Every extra percentage point in conversion matters to the platform. Every reduction in hesitation matters. AI helps find those gains. It helps determine which message gets opened, which button gets pressed, which plan feels reasonable, which upsell feels harmless, and which prompt arrives at exactly the right moment to push a person forward. There is also evidence that personalization affects what consumers buy and how they respond to pricing and offers. Behavioral economics already showed that defaults, framing, timing, scarcity signals, and social proof alter financial decisions. AI supercharges the delivery layer. It can identify which framing works best on which person under which conditions. That is not science fiction. That is just large-scale adaptive testing. The old insight was that people can be nudged. The new reality is that the nudging system can learn faster, test harder, and adapt more precisely than human operators ever could. On the defensive side, banks and payment companies are also investing heavily in AI for fraud detection, transaction monitoring, risk scoring, and anti-money laundering systems. That proves the financial sector itself believes AI materially changes the flow of money. Put those pieces together, and the pattern becomes hard to ignore. Fraud is already expensive. Personalization is already profitable. Behavioral nudges already work. Finance is already automating decisions. Institutions are already deploying AI for detection, scoring, and optimization. The shift is not waiting in the distance. The components are already here. They are already operational. They are already being improved. And once those components interact inside the same financial environment, the result is a system where influence, persuasion, fraud, scoring, and protection all become more machine-mediated at the same time. The reason people are not ready is not lack of intelligence. It is a mismatch between human psychology and machine-optimized financial environments. Human beings evolved for social judgment in small groups, not for defending money inside systems that can simulate trust at scale. Your brain uses shortcuts because it has to. Urgency suggests importance. Familiar tone suggests safety. Polished language suggests legitimacy. Personalization suggests relevance. Repetition suggests credibility. Convenience suggests efficiency. Social proof suggests lower risk. Those shortcuts are not stupid. They are adaptive in ordinary life. The problem is that AI can learn to trigger them with precision. It can test which signals lower resistance, which sequences increase compliance, which moments weaken skepticism, and which patterns quietly move a person from caution to action. That creates a dangerous psychological illusion. People think they are making independent decisions because no one is physically forcing them. But autonomy can be weakened long before coercion appears. If a system knows when you are likely to hesitate, what wording reduces that hesitation? What timing catches you off guard? And what emotional frame makes you rationalize the choice afterward? Then your freedom may still be formally intact while your decision quality is being quietly degraded. You may still feel like the author of the choice while the surrounding environment has been carefully designed to narrow your path. That is what makes the threat hard to recognize. It does not need to override your will in some dramatic way. It only needs to shape the conditions under which your will operates. There is also normalcy bias. Most people assume tomorrow's financial threats will resemble yesterday's. They still imagine scams as crude, manipulation as obvious, and high-risk persuasion as visibly aggressive. But AI allows danger to appear calm, polished, and adaptive. It can sound like your son. It can write like your bank. It can package a bad decision as a productivity gain, a savings opportunity, or a limited time fix to a billing issue. The smoother the interface, the less suspicion people feel. Another major issue is cognitive overload. People already manage bills, work stress, family demands, subscriptions, passwords, messages, and financial uncertainty. Under overload, the brain starts trading accuracy for relief. That is when a one-click confirmation feels attractive. That is when a message that promises resolution feels trustworthy. AI thrives in those moments because its strength is timing plus scale plus adaptation. Then there is overconfidence. Many people believe they are too careful to be manipulated. But the point of better persuasion is that it does not look like persuasion. The point of better fraud is that it does not look fake. The point of better optimization is that it feels helpful. In an AI-shaped financial environment, protection requires more than budgeting and discipline. It requires adversarial awareness. You must assume that what feels convenient may also be optimized, what feels relevant may also be targeted, and what feels smooth may also be strategic. That is why people are behind the curve. They are still using human-era intuitions inside environments increasingly shaped by machine-level adaptation. They are still waiting for danger to announce itself with obvious warning signs. But in this environment, the most effective pressure often arrives dressed as assistance, speed, personalization, and ease. And when that happens, intelligence by itself is not enough. Without a new mental model, even smart people can be guided into bad financial decisions while still feeling fully in control. So what do you do with this once you see it clearly? First, update the model. Stop thinking of AI as only a tool you may personally use for work or creativity. Start thinking of it as an active force that can sit between you and your money. That single mental shift changes everything. It makes you less surprised by personalized pricing, less flattered by smart recommendations, less trusting of polished urgency, and less likely to treat convenience as neutral. It changes how you read interfaces, messages, offers, prompts, and recommendations. It reminds you that a system can be intelligent without being aligned with your interests. Second, build friction on purpose. In a machine-optimized financial world, friction is not always a problem. Sometimes it is protection. Do not approve payments, transfers, or sensitive financial actions from emotional messages in the same channel where they arrive. Verify through a separate channel. Call back directly. Check independently. Delay large decisions. Put distance between trigger and transaction. AI systems win when they compress your response time. They benefit when you answer fast, trust fast, and act fast. So slow the sequence down. Force a pause where the system wants momentum. Add a second look where the system wants reflex. Third, become suspicious of financial personalization, not paranoid, precise. When an offer feels uncannily well-timed, ask what the system knows and what it wants. When a financing option feels painless, calculate the real cost. When an investing prompt feels urgent, ask who benefits from your speed. Relevance is not loyalty. Precision is not benevolence. A system can know exactly what catches your attention without caring at all about your long-term outcome. Fourth, harden the practical layers. Use strong authentication. Protect email recovery paths. Lock down financial accounts. Create family verification phrases for emergency requests. Teach older relatives that a familiar voice is no longer proof. Separate spending accounts from core reserves when possible. Reduce the blast radius of a bad decision. Good security now includes social verification, not just passwords. It includes process, not just software. The goal is not perfection. The goal is containment. Fifth, use AI defensively before others use it against you. Use it to compare fees, summarize terms, detect suspicious language, review contracts, identify manipulative framing, and pressure test offers. Let the machine help you analyze the machine-shaped environment, but never outsource final judgment blindly. The winning posture is assisted skepticism, not passive dependence. And finally, understand the consequence if you do nothing. The financial danger of AI is cumulative. Slightly worse deals, slightly more manipulation, slightly faster trust mistakes, slightly more effective extraction. Over time, that becomes your money story, whether you intended it or not. That is why this matters. AI is about to meet your money directly through influence, pricing, persuasion, fraud, automation, and decision design. The people who see that early will not stop every threat, but they will stop being easy targets. And in the next phase of this economy, that difference is going to be expensive.